Listen, man, if we really want to get serious about closing the wealth gap, we have to start having serious conversations about what wealth is. Wealth is not money. It's not cash. Wealth is time. Wealth is the separation of time and money. You don't become wealthy until your resources, until your assets, until your income increases without the requirement of your time, without you having to work for it, because that's what provides freedom. As long as we are trading our time for money, we will never become wealthy. We will never close the wealth gap. We will never be able to take ourselves out of these economic circumstances. And so wealth is the separation of time and money. How do you do that? It's only three ways to build wealth: buy assets, create assets, or become an asset. Assets are things of value, things that appreciate or increase over time without us having to work for it. And there's only three ways to get it: buy assets, create assets, or become an asset. Most people don't even really understand how the economy works. But to have a successful economy, there are three requirements. You have the people, you have the ideas, and you have the capital. The people are the workers. Those are the people who are the most productive in an economy. And you have to have productivity for output. Our community, unfortunately, always gets stuck in the people part of the economy. We the workers, we the ones that make it happen, right? And I always say, we pay for capitalism, but we don't participate in capitalism. We pay for it with our work, with our effort, with our labor, with our spending habits, but we never get past the worker phase. As long as you are in the worker phase of the economy, you're gonna always trade your time for money. And that's fine if you earn high income, but even if you make $1 million a year, the minute you stop working, that money stops. And so our community has to start thinking beyond the worker part of the economy. The next part of the economy are the ideas, the innovations, the ability to create assets. Business ownership is the creation of an asset. You are creating something of value, right? When you go out and start a business, I don't care if there's 1,000 other businesses like that. You are creating something that has value in the marketplace. And the more people that see value in your product or service, the more people that buy it, the more value your business has. The problem with the businesses in our community is that 95% of the businesses in the Black community are owned by one person. That means that the value of 95% of the businesses in our community are tied up into the life of one person. So if something happens to that person, the business value dies. Essentially, they are the business. Yes, they own the business, but they're doing everything. They're doing the marketing, they're doing the sales, they're doing the accounting, they're doing the management. They are the business. And so in order for us to really take advantage of the idea phase and create value through business ownership, we have to automate, delegate, and separate ourselves from the business. A business does not have any value outside of the owner, right? If you are everything to the business, then that business doesn't have any value on the marketplace. And so you have to find a way to automate things, to delegate tasks, and to separate yourself from the business so that the business can operate without you having to be there. If you own a restaurant and you have to be in a restaurant every single day, you have to cook all the food, you're greeting everybody, you're doing everything. If you miss one day, the sales in that restaurant is gonna drop, then you essentially own a job. And so the goal is to put systems in place, put processes in place so that you can automate, delegate, and separate yourself from the business. The business value is connected to the detachment of the owner. The easier that business can operate without the founder having to be there, the more valuable that business is. And so in the idea and business ownership phase, not only do we need to start businesses, but we need to create value by creating businesses that can operate without us having to be there. That's where the value lies. And once you have that value, you can either pass that to your children or you can sell it on the marketplace for capital. And then the last phase of economics is the capital, the investment of it, any access to it. Now, it's understood that historically we have trouble getting access to capital, whether it's through bank loans, whether it's through angel investors, whether it's through private equity, right? Money just does not flow to our community, but we spend money. We spend over $1.5 trillion, right? Where is that money going? That money is going to invest in other people's businesses, in other people's products or services. And so in terms of capital, we have to start thinking beyond access to capital to start businesses at the lower tier. We have to connect the ideas and the capital by going up the supply chain. It's not one thing to own a retail restaurant or a retail boutique or store, right? Because you're selling at the lowest level. Somebody had to create those resources or extract those resources. Somebody had to manufacture those resources. Somebody had to produce them, and then somebody had to ship them to you. All of that is a part of the economic cycle. And so we just selling at the retail level, we miss it out on the production, on the manufacturing, on the shipping, on the creation of that. And so not only should you thinking about owning a restaurant, you should think about how do I buy land and raise my own cattle and produce my own meat and food, right? How do I create a process with shipping where I can distribute that all over the country or all over the city or all over the state, right? You have to start thinking up the supply chain, right? That brings your costs down and it increases your profit margin because you're getting it at the source. You're not buying food at the retail or wholesale value, you're producing it. And so you get paid throughout the whole supply chain. And so we have to start thinking in terms of that's how we scale our businesses, right? But obviously, the problem is access to capital. How do we get access to and how do we use our capital to invest in money? You know, and we always talk about we need more black banks. I do agree. We do need more black banks and financial institutions. But this is something that nobody ever really brings up, right? There are banks and there are credit unions. A bank is a for-profit institution. It's regulated by the FDIC. It is federally regulated, right? You have to follow all of the banking laws. The amount of capital that's required to start a bank is in the $50 to $100 million at a minimum. A credit union is a nonprofit organization. The amount of capital that it takes to start a credit union is only between $100,000 and $500,000. A credit union can be started by any community organization or affiliate organization of like people. The reason why credit unions are so beneficial is because, number one, they're nonprofit organizations. That allows them to be able to lend at much, much lower interest rates because they are not trying to generate a profit. They are really there to support the community with financial resources. And so we should really think about how do we take some of the organizations that we already have, right? The NAACP, the Urban League, some of these sororities and fraternities. There are enough people and enough capital just in those types of organizations to create credit unions with just a few $1 million. That money then goes to be able to lend to people in those, whether it's a church or an organization, lend to those people at much, much lower interest rates. Once we do that, now we can start to train our people. We can use those credit unions also to create financial literacy so that we understand how to take advantage of credit. We understand all of these different financial terms that are to benefit us, right? And we can slowly wean our community off of these high interest loans, off of these payday loans that are essentially stealing and robbing our people of potential capital with high interest rates, unfair terms, and then instead of them paying 20, 25, 30, 40, 50% in interest to payday loans or to these short-term lenders, they can borrow from their local credit union, right? That's in their community or that's a part of the organization that they're with. That brings down their cost of money, that frees up capital for them to start to be able to invest and do other things like that. And so we should be able to borrow from ourselves at much, much lower rates and then invest and participate in the capital of the growing economy, right? That's how we take advantage of the capital portion. But The fact is, we need to be moving away from just the worker phase of the economy. You're never going to be able to outwork compound interest. You can work 24 hours a day and you're not going to be able to outwork compound interest. And so we need to start putting the numbers in our favor by creating assets through business ownership and by buying assets, buying things of value, taking our excess capital and buying things that appreciate in value. That should just be a baseline part of your financial strategy. I don't care if it's $50 a month, it's $500 or it's $5,000 a month. That extra earnings should be going to buying things of value, whether that's stocks, bonds, real estate, land, businesses, artwork, whatever your portfolio desires, right? You should be buying and owning things that appreciate in value without the requirement of your time. That's how you take advantage of compound interest. That's how you take full advantage of all phases of the economy. And even if you are in the worker phase, you should be at a minimum becoming more of an asset so that you can require more of your time. So that if right now, if you make $10 an hour, what skills do I need to increase that to 15 or to 20? What professional skills do I need to be able to demand much more for my time so that now I can take that extra capital and either buy assets or create assets? And then you just continue to repeat the cycle. You take advantage of compound interest to get yourself out of your economic circumstances because you can't work your way out of it. And so these are the type of conversations that we need to be having collectively. Collectively, we need to be intentional about the things we're doing. You're not going to be successful on accident. You're not going to come out of your situation on accident. Every single day should be intentional. Every single day you should be trying your best to say, okay, what do I need to be doing today? Right? How do I put myself in a better position? Do I need to become an asset? Do I need to buy assets? Do I need to create assets? That's how you build wealth. Wealth is the separation of time and money. What is time? Time is freedom. Once you separate your money from your time, now you can be free to be strategic. Now you can be free, right, to execute or to plan for all of these wonderful ideas that God gave you that you don't even have time for because you're too busy working. Your time is your freedom. And as long as we are subjugated to trading our time for money, we'll never become out of bondage. So that's the wealth mindset.